Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry for the slight delay this morning. It was the rain. You know, it kept us all from driving very fast. So we drive slowly along the roads. So I apologize. It is now 9:07. I'm going to call to order the Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District meeting for regular meeting for May 16th, 2017, Tuesday at 9 a.m. At this time, we will call, I will have Mr. Sam Hicks. Will you lead us in Pledge of Allegiance, please? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Hicks. All right. Can I get a roll call, please, Madam Clerk?
Of course. Bob Lucy, Chair.
Here.
Marcia Burke Bigler, Vice Chair.
Here.
Katie Jung is absent. Von Hartung.
Here.
Jeannie Herman is absent. Chief Moore.
Here.
David Wattsfield, District Attorney. Sir, you have a quorum.
Thank you. We are on to public comment. Do we have public comment signed in?
Yes, we do. First, we have Patrick McLaughlin, followed by Roger Puccinelli.
Good morning, Mr. McLaughlin.
Good morning. My name is Patrick McLaughlin. I've lived in Meadows since 1985. I have a question as to, in regards to our level paramedic service. Due to the fact that our Garson station has been closed, that was 3.3 miles from my house. The new station is 6.2 miles from my house. And I understand that every once in a while, the Station 35 doesn't have any personnel in there. So I'm just wondering what level of service we have. And I also would like to request that Chief Moore have another town hall meeting in Verdi, and preferably bring you along, sir, Mr. Lucy, to help answer the questions for the people who live in Verdi. I don't know, I understand you don't answer any questions right now today. When would, can I ask one question? When would my questions be answered?
Sir, we can't address comments or questions during this period of time, so we can get staff to meet with you after the meeting.
Okay.
Okay?
All right. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Roger Puccinelli, followed by Scott Farrell.
Good morning, Mr. Puccinelli.
Good morning, Commission. I'm Roger Puccinelli. I don't have a prepared statement, but I did have wanted to know how Chief Moore was working on mutual aid. I know we've been to several meetings here, and we're told that mutual aid they were going to use it a little differently and start accessing it better. At the last meeting in February, I heard Chief Moore say that the closest station to our house, Reno Fire Station, other than the one that responded from the county, was a long ways away, and because of no freeway access, we drove that speed limit, and it's 12 minutes. Yet the county delayed 46 minutes before calling for mutual aid. We'd like to see the politics put on the back table and start utilizing all the facilities available. I think that life safety and property protection is more important than the politics of who uses. I know Reno and Truckee Meadows have been fighting for a long time who uses which service the most, and so they haven't been utilizing each other as much because of that, and I think it's time to put an end to it and put fire protection ahead of everything else. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Puccinelli.
Scott Farrell, followed by Ed Pitchford.
My question was asked by the first gentleman, so I have nothing further.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ed Pitchford, and then Michael Widmer.
Morning. My name is Ed Pitchford. I live at 145 Hanson in Verdi. First duty of government is to provide for citizens for safety, and a lot of the residents in Verdi don't feel we're being fully covered with fire protection. Verdi was harmed by the new volunteer program, and I don't think it was intentional on anybody's part, but we lost 25 volunteers, and I understand Galena's volunteers quit, and also Gerlach's quit. And the idea of the volunteers was for them to be in the community that they serve. So that's a problem there. We don't have any volunteers left in Verdi, and we have half a station. We have 4 vehicles there, but nobody to drive those vehicles other than bringing people in, extra people in from Mogul, which they only have 3 on duty there. And as a result of this, our response time has gone up, plus our insurance rates. For 9 months, we've been coming to through this process of talking to the board, and we submitted a petition with over 300 names asking for certain things in next year's budget to leave our problem in Verdi with coverage. In my last job in Vegas, I was in charge of a $5 million budget every year for 10 years. And each year, if I wanted something new, I had to justify that. In looking at next year's Truckee Meadows Fire District budget, I see a lot of capital requests in there, but no justification. There's money for a new location for the Hidden Valley Fire Station. There's no justification in there that I could see of why that needs to be moved. But we did provide justification in our petition and all these requests we've been sending you for additional station in Verdi. The county already owns the land. There's half a station there. We just need quarters for more guys. So I request that before approving this budget, you look in there and consider providing the station for Verdi instead of moving another station that's already operational. And I request that somebody on the board puts this on the June
Thank you, Mr. Pitchford.
June agenda so we can have a dialogue.
Great, thank you. Appreciate it.
Michael Widmer, followed by Rich Laverty.
Good morning. My name is Michael Widmer. I'm a 30-year resident of Verdi. I'm semi-retired. I spent 30 years with the Washoe County Department of Water Resources, so I understand how this board works, and I understand what leadership is. On August 2nd, my family and I were barbecuing, and we were amazed at how still the air was. There was no wind. And then immediately, my neighbor's house went up in flames. Investigating that just to see whether or not we needed to evacuate or what issues we needed to attend to, I witnessed some pretty inept firefighting abilities. I was really dismayed. And I walked home realizing that we do not have adequate fire protection. If my house catches fire for some reason, it's going to burn to the ground. It's just inadequate. So I've been involved with the neighborhood. I've been involved with the people that are showing some leadership in our neighborhood. And I recognize as folks behind me that there is no leadership, there is no response, we're being ignored, and I'm really disappointed in this board. And again, I'd like to get focused on leadership. I work for some pretty impressive people, Steve Bradhurst, John Collins, And those people showed leadership, and I would just like to see the same thing happen with this board. I noticed that our commissioner is not here, and that seems to be a resounding toll on the bell in terms of our leadership. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Rich Laverty, followed by Carly Borchard.
Morning, Commissioners. My name is Rich Laverty. I live at 435 Lakeview Drive, 2 doors east of the Puccinelli fire. Last November, at a Verdi community meeting conducted by Chief Moore, I asked a very simple question. But let me preface that first. There was a lot of conversation of what should have been done to put out the fire and a lot of back and forth to future solutions down the road. I finally raised my hand and said, all of this rhetoric back and forth is going nowhere at the moment. I want to know what's going to happen right now. Addressing Chief Moore, I asked for a fire plan, a written statement of what steps, actions are to be implemented to prevent such a disaster from happening again. That was November. 6 months have passed, and there's been no response. The commission needs to address the Verdi community with a documented response. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Carly Borchard.
Good morning, Commission. My name is Carly Borchard. I'm also a Verdi resident. I've been there for 30 years, and I've really tried the last couple of years to get involved with all of these processes. I currently sit on the Verdi West Truckee Meadows CAB. I also sit on the City of Reno NAB just to try to get some information coming from that direction. And I think that's what I want to mention this morning, is why this is so important to us and that why we're not wanting this to fall to the wayside and we're showing up month after month to address you guys. We've got a lot of different development coming out to Verdi through the City of Reno. If you guys have been out to Verdi lately, you've seen the landscape changing. They're already grading to more than double our population, and with no true infrastructure in place for services. Fire and police are our biggest concerns, and with the population more than doubling, we're looking at some trouble. So we're coming to you guys to make sure that our fire service is up to par on our side, because the City of Reno can't handle what they've got, in my opinion right now, humble opinion. So this much more development out in Verdi is going to require another station, which they've got planned, but that's way far down the road. We've got certain assets in place right now, which is the Truckee Meadows Fire Department, and we've got the ability to have volunteers, which several months ago you guys mentioned was important to you as well. I was really happy to hear that, because being in Verdi my whole life, we've always relied on those guys. And we've got the quarters, if you will, maybe not living quarters, but we've got the actual building in place. I think it's really important that we don't donate that land and it go to the wayside. We need to retain it for our uses and make sure that that is there for our community in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
There's nobody else signed in for public comment.
Thank you very much. All right, we'll bring it back to the board, seeing no other further public comment at this time. Chief, we are on to agenda item 4, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item number 4 is Commissioners and Fire Chiefs announcements, requests for information and topics for future agendas, and statements relating to items not on the agenda. I'd like to report that construction on Station 14 will begin mid-July, and I'll be looking for dates on your schedule to do a groundbreaking. We'll know the guaranteed maximum price from the contractor here fairly soon. Probably mid-June, and then they will mobilize and be ready to start construction. And we're looking at a construction period of, I believe, 10 or 11 months. So by about this time next year, we should be occupying that station. With respect to the report on Verdi, I mentioned to the board in email communication I had hoped to have that report to you this month, but nevertheless, there was a segment missing that segment was that I had asked the independent review agency to take a look at our global response with respect to rural fire, and that piece was missing. So I've sent it back to the consultant and asked him to add that, so I should have that report ready in sometime in June. The essential question we've asked the consultant to look at is, was fire department response and performance material to the outcome of the fire? And as you know, that there are, every fire is different. Some fires are fully involved when we arrive. In this particular case, in the Verdi fire, there was substantial involvement. And sometimes fires are fairly incipient. But nevertheless, I know that it's important to the Verdi community to understand what services they have, and the consultant will address those. Finally, I've given you a letter that we received from Curtis and Liz Wyshon. Sorry, I'm reading this as they hand wrote it, so I'd like to read it into the record. Personnel at Station 36, which is in Arrow Creek. On behalf of myself and my wife Liz, as well as our neighbors, we are thankful to donate $2,500 to be used specifically for Station 36. When we needed your assistance, your crew at the station were quick to respond and very professional. The responding personnel were Mark Yammerin, captain, Mike Lambert, FEO, and Ben Kleinbach, paramedic. Hopefully these funds will be, I'm sorry, I can't read his handwriting, used for weight room equipment. However, the funds may be directed anywhere the station desires. Thank you again. So I'll be bringing that to the board for an action item next month. So we're very grateful to these people who saw fit to acknowledge my very fine crew at Station 36. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Chief. Vice Chair Burke-Bigler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When the study comes back on Verdi, can we expect for it to give us some ideas on how we address the issues and concerns of the citizens who live in Verdi? I know, it's fairly close. I know the community well. It's fairly close to where I live, and I think they have some valid concerns about some things, and so I want to make sure that we are able to address some of their issues in this budget year if possible. So will the study give us that kind of information? And if you can't answer that now, Mr. District Attorney, if that would be part of the discussion at our next meeting, that would be great.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Burke-Bigler. Whether the report addresses that specifically, I think the venue to best do that would be in a community meeting. But there are two things, again, just to restate what I said earlier, is that the report will focus on fire department performance and whether it was material to the outcome of that fire, and two, what is our global capability with respect to rural fire protection.
So we're really looking, this study is really looking at rural fire protection in general and not specifically just Verdi.
It should look at both, because obviously Verdi can be lumped into the global issue, but as I've stated before, I believe the issue in Verdi is water resource. It isn't necessarily proximity to the fire station or response time. That's my professional opinion.
So then the other question, Mr. Chair, if it's okay, the other question I have regarding Verdi is, as I understand it, we own the small volunteer station that's there. The county owns that station?
That's correct, Commissioner. The county owns it. Nevertheless, there are some complications with rebuilding that station, and those are the Historical Society would like to take ownership of the schoolhouse, and the volunteer station is on that same lot.
Yeah, I don't want to get too far into the weeds about questions
No.
on this item, so maybe we can bring this back at a different item. This is kind of not agendized at this time, so.
That would be appropriate. If I could ask for that then to be brought back, and let us have a discussion on that station and, what we're looking at out there, because we do have a lot of citizens who live out there, and they, as the people in Hidden Valley had concerns, these people in Verdi have a right to their concerns, and so we need to try and address it if we can. So if we could bring it back to have a discussion on it, that would be great.
Thank you, Madam
Thank
Vice
you.
Chair. Commissioner Harton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief, when you get the report, can you also include the historic numbers of calls, both fire and EMS to Verdi, so that we can look as to whether a career station is warranted in that location? Because I know basically what we've done historically is based our career stations on population and the amount that they serve. And it's, you know, it can be somewhat tough to put a station in certain places. I know that there's been a request for many years to have a full-time station in Wadsworth, but the number of calls didn't warrant that. And so I'd like to make some of those same comparisons. And then it would also be good for us to look at, there's been an assertion that we should put politics aside. We've always wanted to have a mutual aid agreement with the city of Reno. It's in the city of Reno's lap right now. We're fully willing to sign it. We've already signed the agreement with the city of Sparks. I'm aware of that. And so it'd be nice to know if it's possible to know what that timeline is. And I know it's up to them to sign it. And then hopefully we can look at on the horizon, if the city of Reno is going to approve some of these subdivisions out there, what the timeline is for Tumwa or the developer to put in infrastructure, and maybe there's some ways that we can at least have some hydrants along the way, if that's possible. And I don't know I haven't looked on the map, it's not my district, and I haven't seen those developmental agreements and what they really look like, if they're PUDs or what the actual nature is. And I don't know where they're going to draw infrastructure from, or if Tumwa's going to just try to pull the infrastructure from existing resources, groundwater, and create just some I don't want to call it standalone, because that's not typically how that's not how we operate. We always like to be able to back up with surface water resources, so there probably will be a need there, but just the timing of that whole thing, and that's not in our hands, of course. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hartung. And to kind of wrap this up, obviously, Chief, we have had an ask for a public meeting or a community meeting with yourself. If you are to schedule that, just let me know, and I'll put that on my calendar and be in attendance at that meeting. But for the residents in my district, this weekend on Sunday, we are going to have a wildfire awareness meeting. Arrow Creek is part of the grant initiative that they were trying to do for fuels management. That will be on Sunday from 12 to 2. And so I want to thank our staff for being there and in attendance, and for the residents and whatnot. So that will be taking place this Sunday. Other than that, I have nothing further. Chief, nothing further from you? Okay. We are on to consent.
Consent items, Mr. Chairman, I need to pull out item H for further clarification.
H for further, okay. So we'll pull H. Madam Chair, would you like to read the donations for F and G?
Yes, I'll be happy to do that, Mr. Chair. We always like to point out our donations, and so we want to notice that in 5F, we are accepting a donation of a Panasonic 50-inch monitor with an estimated value of $500 from the Nevada Department of Education in support of the Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District for the Lemon Valley Volunteer Station, which is Station 223. And we want to express appreciation for the thoughtfulness of this contribution from the Department of Education. 5G is to accept monetary donations in the amount of $700 from Commissioner Burke-Bigler, $500 from Commissioner Hartung, $500 from Commissioner Herman, $300 from Chief Moore, and $99 from Firefighters Association Local 3895 to fund scholarships for children ages 11 through 14 throughout our community to attend the 2017 Fire Kids Camp and to express sincere appreciation for the thoughtful contributions. And we'll, since we're pulling 11 for further discussion, I'll just touch on 11 and say that we will discuss it further when Chief addresses it.
Okay, great. H.
I'm sorry, H. Sorry, I have my glasses on, I can't read.
Okay, so we have, we have the consent with the removal of H. I'm looking for a motion.
Move approval?
I have a motion from Vice Chair Burkbiggler, second from Commissioner Hartung. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Let the record show that Commissioner Jung and Commissioner Herman being absent.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
you need to call for public comment.
Oh, thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, do we have public comment?
There is no public comment on
Thank
this
you,
item.
sir. All right. At this time, item 6,
11.
Mr. Chair, I just need to add a clarification to item H.
Okay. Oh, I thought you were pulling it from the agenda for the day. No, you're just pulling it out of consent. Okay, thank you.
To give you further clarification, I
Okay,
wanted to
yes,
state,
sir. So we're on to 5H.
I wanted to state for the record that the donations of $5,500 from Commissioner Hartung and $5,500 from Chair Lucy are coming from your discretionary funds from the county, as I understood, and not from your personal accounts.
That's correct.
So the staff report did not identify that clearly enough.
That is correct. Those donations are both from Commissioner Hartung's and myself's, our discretionary funds from the county to fund the Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District employees. So
Move
thank you.
approval of H.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. I'm sorry, public comment.
There is no public comment on this.
Thank you.
Sorry.
I apologize. We're trying to move through this so we can, my tardiness is trying to expedite this meeting today. All right. We have nobody, I did get a message that there was nobody going to be in attendance from the IAF Local 3895 for their report today, so we will skip we will take item 6 from the agenda, and we are on to agenda item 7. Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make this announcement from the podium, if I may. Mr. Chairman, I wanted to announce a promotion of Joe Cammon from Captain to Division Chief of of EMS. Joe is an exceptional paramedic for us, and he will take charge of our EMS program and maintain the high standards of excellence that we have in our advanced life support. We get more compliments on our ability to deliver emergency medical services by and large than any other service that we provide. So I wanted to present Joe's badge to him, and his wife Heather will pin that on him, and we want to wish Joe congratulations. Hi, Heather. Don't stab him. If he does get stabbed, we have a lot of paramedics.
You're good.
Wait, you got to pose.
Oh, photo.
I gotta
Photo
get
op.
ready.
One with the, sure, we can do one more. Yeah, we can do one with the board. Let's do that.
Congratulations. Thank you very much for sharing with us. Get in there, Mr. Chair.
All right. One more.
Hi, dear. Hi, how are you? Yeah, I would have fixed that, you know that. I'm gonna get his name. Okay, on 3, Fuzzy Pickle, 1, 2, 3. Uno mas. 3, 3, and 3. Thank you.
Got it.
Well, congratulations, Joe. It's much well-deserved promotion for you, and I think you'll do a wonderful job. We're very excited for you to be our new division chief of EMS, so we're very excited about that. So congratulations to you. All right, Chief, we are on to item 8.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item number 8 is the chief's report. I'm going to go through these because I know time is, go through these quickly. I know time is of the essence. Volunteer program update. I've given you a summary of the dashboard of the volunteer transition and also where we stand with respect to our recruitment is the word I was looking for. So by the end of June, we hope to be very close to 100 strong volunteers. I'm very pleased with that. Update on division and deputy chief selection. Certainly just introduced Joe Cammon as division chief of EMS. We've also selected Matt Lochran from Fremont, California to be division chief of fire training. Matt is an excellent instructor. He's well known within the firefighters within our organization, and he actually has a very fine reputation throughout the U.S. We're very, very pleased to bringing Matt on. And although we did not contemplate bringing on 2 division chiefs, what we intend to do is to forego the fuels management officer and bring on 2 division chiefs, which input from staff is we want to support our training program not only on the volunteer side, but also on the career side. So instead of the fuels management officer, which we'll take a team approach to, we're going to forego that position and do the 2 division chiefs. Deputy chief, the process will be ongoing, and we're going to restart that in June. We did not find a candidate that we wanted to pass on for a recommendation to hire. But nevertheless, we had a lot of qualified people, and we're very, very thankful for all the interest in that particular position. So that one will be delayed just a little bit. Fuels management update. Commissioner Chairman Lucy, you had asked for a little more information on that, and I wanted to express a vision of what fuels management may look like next year. I had this idea of creating a transfer station for vegetative waste. We have one for cardboard, we have one for aluminum and plastic, but because we have so many people wanting to burn their vegetative waste, and I provided that in the chief's report of just how many burn permits we have. Each one of those burn permits represents some risk to the community if one of those fires breaks out of its containment. And we actually had 4 of those fires do that this season. Fortunately, none of them represented a severe fire, but I know it's on the mind of a lot of people with Little Valley. Certainly, there are professionals doing a controlled burn in Little Valley, and that fire escaped. So the overall strategy is to reduce the number of burn permits and give people a chance to simply dispose of it other than the typical waste management, set it at your garbage can. It has such a high volume that you can't put it in a 90-gallon waste can every week. So if we can find some land, the district wants to compost it, we want to chip it, and we want to burn that vegetation to where we have bigger stumps and bigger limbs that we can't otherwise dispose of it in any other way. So I have asked Waste Management if they're willing to partner in that, and they have said yes. They think it's an excellent idea. So what I would need to do is to find some land where I could do that activity. It's going to take a special use permit, but we have the chipper. We have in the budget a burn box where we can burn safely and have firefighters doing the burning rather than citizens. So that is in a nutshell of the program we would like to unfold in the North Valley late fall, and if it's successful, we'll look for an opportunity to do it in the South Valley.
Okay. Commissioner Hartung.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief, you know, in Spanish Springs, there's a a pit out there that's been there for many, many years. It's owned by the Donovan family. And I have a close working relationship with them because, gosh, I've known Scott and Tom more years than I want to admit to. But in Spanish Springs, you can take your clean yard waste to them, and they have this huge, beautiful composting pile. And I'm wondering if we could create some type of a relationship with them, and I'd be happy to make the introductions. Instead of burning some of this stuff that we've chipped, try to get it to them because they can compost it and repurpose it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So there may be, and I know you can take some pretty big stuff to them, and they'll take it. They've got a commercial chipper that is pretty vicious.
Great. Well, I think why don't we have you and Chief meet offline, and we can do that, and that way we can get that set up for that North Valleys.
I think it's a great idea.
Great.
Chief, I think that this is really innovative and thinking out of the box, and I applaud you for it. That's wonderful.
Great.
Thank you.
Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the status of the volunteer update program, or the status of the update of the volunteer program, I'll get it right, trust me here. I see that in Verdi there are 5 operational volunteers and 1 support volunteer. Is that, those people will be placed out in Verdi? Do they live in Verdi?
Commissioner Burke-Bickler, I understand that 1 or 2 live in Verdi and the rest do not.
Do they live?
The challenge in any community is
Yeah.
finding volunteers that live there. It's a common problem with Lemon Valley, it's a problem
Yeah.
with South Valley, but we are finding volunteers that live in our district. So
Okay.
again, the strategy to use volunteers is a force multiplier, and so when we have weather events approaching
Yeah.
and any other reasons, we call them out. Unfortunately, that can extend their response time, of course, but we can put them in place preemptively when we see weather events coming in.
Okay, good, thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Chief, anything further on 8A?
I am going to forego the presentation on the use of drones because I know time is short, Mr. Chairman, and I'll bring that back at some other time.
Okay. All right. Looking, do we have any public comment?
There's no public comment.
Great. Looking for a motion to accept item 8.
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously with Commissioner Jung and Commissioner Herman being absent. On to item 9.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 9 is discussion and possible approval to create 1 additional fire division chief position and to update the district's current staffing plan, organizational plan to reflect the additional position. As I've stated in the chief's report, we're hiring 2 division chiefs, and we'll hire a deputy chief at some future point.
Great. Seeing no further discussion on this, is there any public comment?
There is no public comment.
Seeing no public comment signed in.
Approval.
I have a motion for approval.
Second.
Second from Commissioner Hartung. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 10 is discussion and possible approval to authorize staff to issue a request for debt financing for Station 14. The idea here is we have $6 million in cash to build that station. We're thinking at a staff level of, do we want to spend all $6 million in cash, and do we want to hold some of it back for future capital and also look at a future capital plan? We will not have cash to build future stations as we have in the past. Station 37 is, of course, coming up. The justification for that is that the SUP expires in 2018. And we have other capital that would be coming on in terms of rolling stock and facilities. So it's unlikely that we'll have the cash to do future big capital items like that. So we're thinking that we have to leverage financing in some way in the future. So we want to take a look at what it would cost to do either full or partial financing of Station 14, bring that back to the board for consideration.
Okay. So this is just a motion at this time for, to look into the potential of either full or part. It's not actually recommending financing at this time.
Correct.
Okay.
Question, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Hartung.
Thank you. What type of, would we issue bonds, Chief? How would we finance that? What's the plan?
Bonds are a possibility, but we're looking at medium-term financing, which would not be a full bond. It could be a 10-year term. It could be partial financing where we put $4 million down and finance $2 million.
Just go to the bank and ask them for money, is basically what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
That's a glorified loan for 10
Got it.
years.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Move approval.
Second.
I have a motion by Vice Chair Berkweiler, second by Commissioner Hartung. All those in favor signify by saying, public comment.
There is no public comment.
All right, thank you very much. Seeing no public comment, we will, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, item 11 is discussion and possible approval to reassign a water tender project to an HGAC or similar approved vendor in accordance with HGAC contract pricing in the amount of $222,474 per unit. The district had issued an RFP to Burton's Fire Equipment. They have not performed as per the RFP, and in fact, asking Burton's when they would be finished pushed that project off many, many months. So we're way behind the curve in getting those water tenders constructed, and we don't believe, or we don't at least have confidence that this vendor will execute the RFP in a way that we envisioned. So therefore, we want to exercise our rights in the RFP and reassign the contract to another vendor. And this staff report would allow us to find a vendor who can provide HGAC financing and get the projects done as soon as we possibly can.
Okay.
Got a question.
Question, Commissioner Hartung.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief, what's the difference between a water tender and a water truck that Granite would use? What's the, I mean, they both carry water. They both probably have certain kinds of connections. What's the difference?
The difference is in the fire pump. That typically water trucks for construction don't deliver the volume that we need at the pressures that we need to be able to feed a Type 1 fire engine. There's compartment space, there's emergency lighting, there's a whole host of NFPA requirements that a fire water tender have to meet that a construction truck does not.
The reason I ask this is I was contacted recently, and the question was, why can't we just get water trucks, from like Granite or many other construction companies have, like Q&D and et cetera. So that's the reason for my question. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. All right, seeing no further questions, do we have any public comment signed?
There is no public comment.
Thank you. All right, looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hartung, second by Vice Chair Berkbickler. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right. Chief, we are on to Agenda 12.
Mr. Chairman, I have nothing to report on item 12.
Okay, so seeing nothing with item 12, we will move on from 12, and
Do
I
we
will.
need public comment to see?
Do we have any public comments on item 12?
There is no public comment
Okay,
on 12.
thank you. All right, since we have no public comment, we'll move that item, bring that back at the next meeting. We will open the public hearing and move on to item 13.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item number 13 is discussion and action on the Sierra Fire Protection District tentative budget, as well as possible changes to the adoption of the final budget for fiscal year 2017 and 18. This item may be continued to Tuesday, May 23rd, 2017 at 9 a.m. As you know, the Sierra Fire no longer exists, but the state wants, nevertheless, if it had funds in the prior year, it wants to see how those funds were dispersed and essentially adopting a budget that's $0. But nevertheless, it's a requirement of the state to adopt that budget and show that Sierra Fire no longer has any money.
Well, boy, we love these redundancy things that the state makes us do.
So the CFO for the district, Cindy Vance, is prepared to give you any more information on that if I haven't stated it adequately.
That's correct. We'll actually have to file one again next year. Because
Excuse me, what?
the current year, we had activity as of July 1st to transfer the money to Truckee Meadows Fire.
Yeah.
So they will require a budget filed next year to show the prior year activity, which would be fiscal year 17 at the time of the transfer of the $2 amounts from the general fund and the emergency
We have to
fund.
file a budget for $0.
Yes. I did argue, but I lost.
Wow. Okay, well, thank you. I mean, that's, and, all right. Seeing no further discussion. Yes. Do we have any public comment? Do we have a motion? And
Second.
a second. Do we have any public comment?
No, sir, there's no public
No
comment.
public comment on a zero budget. Thank you very much. All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Now onto the budget that actually means something.
Mr. Chairman, item 14 is discussion and action on the Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District tentative budget, as well as possible changes to the adoption of the final budget for fiscal year 2017-18. This item may be continued to Tuesday, May 23rd, 2017 at 9 a.m. So I'll let Cindy Vance do the presentation.
Ms. Vance.
Cindy Vance, Chief Fiscal Officer for the record. Presenting the Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District budget for the fiscal year 17-18. We have 6 funds. General fund, which has about $27.5 million in revenues. Capital projects funds, which will have some revenue this year for $760,000. We have 3 special revenue funds, which consist of the emergency fund, sick and annual compensation benefits fund, and our stabilization fund. We have 1 remaining internal service fund, which is the workers' compensation fund. We do also list the health benefits fund, but it has no budget because it was closed during the current fiscal year. Our general fund, we have revenues budgeted of $27.5 million, which is approximately a 3.6% increase in revenues over the estimated current year. Included in that amount is $17.3 million in property tax revenues, which is about a 2.5% increase over the estimated current year. Our consolidated tax revenues is estimated at $8 million, and that's approximately 4.6% increase over the estimated current year. We do have some other sources of revenues, which include our AB 104, interlocal agreements, and investment earnings. Here's a graph to show our revenues, and as you can see, that our main revenue is our property tax, and then the consolidated taxes make up a significant portion of 8% of the revenues. Our property tax rate is 54 cents per $100 of assessed value. Our projected property tax revenue of $17.3 million. The district's assessed value of property is just under $3.8 billion in assessed value. We're actually collecting approximately 46 cents per $100 assessed value. The 15% between that 54 cents per 100 and the 46 is due to exemptions and abatements. So your average revenue to Truckee Meadows Fire District based on the assessed value. So if you have an assessed value of $100,000, we collect about $460. Assessed value of $250,000, we collect about $1,150. And assessed value of $500,000, we collect about $2,300. The general fund's expense budget does include a one-time transfer of $4.3 million to the capital projects funds, and this is mostly coming from one-time budget savings, normal ongoing funding for capital expenditures, and one-time fund balance transfers from the workers' compensation fund and the remaining from the health benefits fund that was transferred this year. The general fund balance is projected to be $5.9 million at the end of the year of fiscal year 18, which is about 21% of the expenditure level. It does include a operating contingency of $350,000, which is 1.3% of expenditures. Some of the significant items in the budget for the general fund, we do have enhanced training by adding the division chief position in charge of training. We do plan to staff an additional engine during peak times, and that is as deemed necessary. Fund a captain's academy. This will be training for our staff to gain their leadership skills, people skills, strategy and tactic skills. We are anticipating increases for health insurance and workers' compensation premiums. We've been told by our broker to probably expect about a 20% increase in health premiums. And our workers' compensation experience rate is of 1.3. That means it's running about 30% over our premiums. We're just getting into the renewal time, so we do expect that that's going to have a significant increase. And again, we have substantial capital improvement plan. As you can see in our budget, the most of our expenses are really our salaries and benefits. Between the salaries and benefits, that's 80% of the budget, and the remaining 20% is for service and supplies and minimal capital expenditures within the general fund. This is a table that represents our current estimated revenues and expenses for the general fund and our budgeted revenues. You can see our small increase in revenues. We are anticipating an increase in expenditures, and the current year does include, or the budgeted year does include that $350,000 of contingency. Our other financing sources and uses, that's a net amount of transfers in and transfers out. Those are mostly transfers to capital fund. Beginning fund balance, and our projected ending fund balance at $5.9 million. Our proposed staffing levels is about 131 full-time equivalents, and we do have 5 departments. I'll go through this part fairly quickly, I think. We do have our administration staff, which is of 10 people. That does include the administration of the fire department, so that you have the fire chief, the deputy chief, and the division chief of EMS within the administration, along with the office staff. Our operations is our main staffing levels. That's 111 full-time equivalents, 6 battalion chiefs, and then fairly equal amounts between the captains, equipment operators, paramedics. Our training division, we will have 3 fire captains in charge of training, our new division chief of training, so the total of 4 in that department. Fire prevention does represent our fire marshal plus 2 fire prevention specialists. And then we do have a fleet department, which we have our fleet manager, fire mechanic, and our fire mechanic logistics helper. Capital projects fund, this is our other most significant probably fund, most important. It does include the $4.3 million transfer from the general fund. We did include revenues from sale of land for the current Station 14. We're anticipating selling that this year. And a capital improvement budget of $12.6 million, leaving a fund balance, if all is spent, is $251,000. The breakdown of those expenditures is including services and supplies of about $1.9 million, and that is our larger type of services and supplies that don't necessarily meet quite the capital threshold, but it includes your SCBAs, hydrant supplies, hose supplies, and radio, so fairly large amounts of services and supplies. We have our capital equipment, specifically a standby generator is budgeted, but then we do have $500,000 budgeted for other types as deemed necessary. Vehicles and apparatus as part of our replacement for our rolling stock. We do have 1 engine and 1 ladder truck budgeted, a mobile command vehicle, 1 command vehicle, an all-terrain vehicle, rescue boat, ambulance, our general facilities maintenance, and then some specific line items for ventilation system and photocell safety. As we stated earlier, we are doing the Fire Station 37. Such remodel, but that's actually the movement. So we do have land and architect fees expected because of our special use permit is expiring. And then the construction of Fire Station 14 that's supposed to start in July. And again, that's the full amount is budgeted as of cash at this time. Our emergency fund is allowed to have up to $1.5 million set aside for unseen emergencies. We only included a transfer about $100,000 from the general fund to fund this because we were fortunate during the current year that most fires were reimbursed by our insurance with the NDF and other types of reimbursements. We're expecting a reimbursement for FEMA for the flooding emergencies. Our other funds include the sick and annual compensation benefit funds. This is to fund for anticipation of future retirements with a large balance of about $1.9 million in compensated absences accrued. Our workers' compensation fund, we planning to transfer most of that out because it is overfunded, leaving a start of about $1 million in cash. We do, and even though we've done the 5-year buyout, we are going to be liable for heart and lung claims forever. So that is anticipated for next year. And then our stabilization fund is really just a rolling fund balance of $590,000 that collects some interest earnings. So in conclusion, we believe that the fiscal year 2018 provides financial stability and focuses on our critical capital and mission-critical staffing.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Vance. And I just have a brief comment before we go to public comment, and I'll actually open it up to other commissioners as well. You know, the one thing that I do notice is that through some cost efficiencies that the chief and the district have initiated, we have definitely tried to, you know, repurpose staff and repurpose a lot of within our organization, and we've tried to maintain some cost-effective measures to maintain those expenses at a very manageable level. However, we don't see, you know, and even with revenues going up, we don't see them going up fast enough with the needs that we need for this district. And it's always going to be in a concern of mine that we continue to move forward, not only as a fire protection district, but as county commissioners and members of the county commission that serve on regional planning, that we discuss the purpose of annexation. The annexation is still one of those things that all of our funding comes just wholly for the district from the unincorporated citizens of this county. And if we don't protect that unincorporated area, the county continues to get their tax dollars, whether you're in the city of Reno or on the unincorporated county. The only person that continues to suffer is the fire protection district. So I would ask that our members of our commission and that serve in that board in any capacity at this commission, that we continue to fight that effort, because it is, for our individuals here from Verdi that are requesting additional staff stations, and as we move forward, we fight a funding problem, and a funding problem that is constantly knocking at our door. So I would urge everybody, this is not an individual fight, this is an everybody fight. So let's continue to move forward with working towards that resolution. Any further comments from the commissioners? Commissioner Hartung.
I do. Cindy, can you go back a few slides where you had the layout and it showed everything from the chief down?
Okay.
So I thought some of this stuff was included in the, keep going.
This one?
Yes. What's the HR specialist? I thought we got that through the CalCap from the county's HR.
We do have our own HR specialist, who's Dina Wiggins. She joined the district in November, and I think that would have been approved.
Mr. Chairman, I can add more clarification to that.
Sure.
Our HR administrator helps us speed up the hiring process, helps me resolve grievances and all kinds of employee issues specific to benefits, if there's questions with health insurance, all of those things where employees have questions. It really has evolved into needing somebody full-time to answer those specifically to TM employees.
Okay.
So we still rely on county HR, but more for the big things like labor negotiations, like major issues where we need a significant amount of expertise. But for the day-to-day, that is what our HR administrator does.
Okay. And then if you would go forward a few slides to the slide where it shows $100,000 for an ambulance. Where are we going to put that ambulance, Chief?
Commissioner Hartung, this is a replacement for the existing ambulance that we have at Station 30 in Bowers.
In Bowers?
You may recall that REMSA has authorized to respond our ambulance to the Bellevue and south, simply because it takes REMSA a long time, and we're in a great position to be able to respond that ambulance.
Will we be reimbursed as REMSA is?
We will be allowed to bill for those services, and when that ambulance gets here, we'll bring a recommendation to the board for fees to charge.
And it'll just be, I mean, who will drive it? Who will, operate it? Will it just be firefighters?
Correct. Paramedic firefighters will probably initiate a dual response of the engine and the ambulance, or when it's appropriate, perhaps everyone responds in the ambulance.
Okay. Okay. Still taking our engine out of service, though.
It would take the engine out of service, but the frequency of that unit responding is very de minimis.
Okay.
But nevertheless, it's in the best interest of our citizens not to wait for REMSA, which can be 30, 45 minutes to get an ambulance there.
No, and I understand completely. One of the things that I still want to push for is a reimbursement. If you respond because, let's say, I've had an accident and I need medical care, I have insurance, and our firefighters, our fire service, because we're providing that first EMS response, there should be some type of remuneration. In fact, I know that there is some remuneration available to that EMS service. And I'd like to move forward to try to offset wherever we can, every single call where we're not dealing with someone who's indigent, people who actually have insurance, or through what's currently the Affordable Care Act, then get reimbursed for those calls. I think it can offset at least some of our operating costs.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right, Madam Chair, I have nothing. Do we have a public comment signed in?
There is no public comment.
Thank you very much. All right, looking for a motion to approve tentative budget.
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion from Commissioner Hartung, second by Vice Chair Burkbiegler. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously with Commissioner Herman and Commissioner Jung being absent. All right, we will close the public hearing. We will bring it back to item 15. Any further announcements, Chief?
No, sir.
All right, Commissioners?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. So,
Commissioner.
Chief, I would like to see something brought back, put that on our dashboard about how we can do some cost recovery. I think it could be, I wouldn't call it substantial, but I think it can certainly be warranted.
And Commissioner Hartung, you were going to talk about, you would like to bring back an item in regards to working with your working relationships
think-
about the further pit?
I
For
think
the
we've already-
vegetation?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what the chief and I will do, Mr. Chairman, is we'll have some discussions. I'll get with him later today, and we'll talk about proximity and how we deal with movement, and then have a conversation with the Donovans and just see what that possibility is. And we may have need for multiples, unfortunately, just because it might be cheaper. If you're dealing with something in Washoe Valley, if you have to move it all the way out to Spanish Springs, it could be cost prohibitive. So we have to just look at circles of proximity and see where it's going to fly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair?
Madam Vice Chair.
I'd also like you to bring back, Chief, on the budget, an explanation for what happens with a 21% ending fund balance if the state changes it to 13%, which is, I understand, still a piece of legislation that's sort of hanging out there in the hinterlands and might happen. So if we won't be able to keep this at 21%, the ending fund balance. So if you would bring that back to us and let us know. I don't know if we'll know in June, but we should know in June.
Understood.
Great.
Thank you.
All right. Seeing nothing further, we'll close 15. We do have a need for a possible closed session today, so I'm looking for a motion.
Move approval for a closed session post the
Regular meeting?
regular BCC meeting.
Second.
All right. I have a motion and a second, so we will have a closed session. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed? So we will be in closed session after this, and we will do a final public, we're going to take a final public comment now. Or would you want to do a final public comment post?
You can do a final public comment now, and then if you can call for one after the closed session. We typically open the doors, ask if anyone's present.
Yeah, but do we want to do one now?
Yeah.
Do we have public comments?
Yes,
on
sir,
it?
we do.
Thank you. All right.
We have Jim Severs, followed by Sam Dene.
Thank you. Mr. Severs.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, Chief. My name is Jim Severs, and I live in Verdi. And I've got two small comments. that relate to public safety in Verdi and our fire protection in Verdi. The first is that I was a little bit surprised to find out that in the 2017-18 budget that money has been set aside to acquire land for the new Hidden Valley station that's going to be coming up after the 14th station. In the 9 months we've been coming here, we haven't heard anyone from Hidden Valley complain about fire protection. We've been here pretty much every month complaining about Verdi fire protection. The second, and also along with that, I was a little surprised this morning to find out that our water tenders are going to be potentially delayed. I may be wrong with that, but that's what I read from your comments, Chief. So understand that either. And the last comment I have is in the November meeting that we had in Verdi, Chief Moore attended and several firefighters attended. We had 60 Verdi residents. The chief indicated that he would let our insurance companies know that Station 351, the one that's in Verdi now, is available to fight fires. And we checked on the website, and we still don't see 351 on the website as a viable fire station for Washoe County. So that's the last of my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Severs. Mr. Dene.
Sam, Dene, that's me. The heart and soul, body and mind of Reno government for the last 23 years, Reno and Washoe County government. I'm an Air Force Academy graduate. I spent many years flying fighters and bombers, defending our nation against the enemies inside of the border and outside of the border. And I wish the fire personnel out in the lobby there were in here to listen to Sam, because Sam has their backs like he always does, more than anybody else in the community. Or I guess they can watch it on the TV out there. Sam Dene, I was the person who nominated the Reno fire chief back there, Dave Cochran. I hope he got a good hand for Dave Cochran. Chief Moore over there, I didn't nominate him, but I certainly spoke on his behalf more than anybody else when he was attempting to be the new fire chief for you guys. Well, the fire chief for you guys, been about 5 years now. At any rate, I'm the driving force for 92% of the good things about Reno for the folks I see a lot of new faces out there. I like that when there's a lot of, look at Mr. Listener here. Yay, let's get a hand for him. I like it when there's a lot of people here at the Sam Dene shows. If I seem dumbfounded, it's really a good thing. I got to come to these fire meetings a little more often. They got a good crowd of people here. At any rate, like I said, I nominated Dave Cochran back there. I was the citizen who nominated him, and they follow my directives over in Reno and hired him, and he's doing a pretty up and walking good job, just like Chief Moore is doing over there. I don't hear very many kudos from the folks out here, so it's really a lot of kudos coming right here at this moment, because guess what? I speak for 300,000 people in this community. 301,000, he said. What are the chances? Anyway, that's enough said. That's enough about Sam Dene. I want to tell you guys something that nobody seems to really know about. Nobody knows about it. I was the driving force that got the Air National Guard C-130 cargo planes when they wanted to get fighter planes way back 15, 20 years ago. But guess what? Guess what is happening now, ladies and gentlemen, and you don't hear about it. Finally, at my directive, which I started 15 years ago, I wanted the Air Guard to get firefighting C-130s, and the government was against it because it was Sam's idea. So 10 years went by, they forgot it was Sam's idea, and now guess what? The Nevada Air National Guard actually has firefighting C-130s, and we will be so proud that our National Guard will be doing something to help the citizens, saving lives and homes. Thank you. Thank you over there. Thank you, Mr. Listener.
Thank you, Mr. Dene.
Nice smiley face.
All right. Seeing no further public comment, we'll bring it back to the board. At this time, we're going to be in recess until after the regular BCC meeting.
Mr. Chair, you need to make a motion to go into the closed session.
We did make a motion to go into closed session.
Okay. Apparently, Mr. Moore and I both missed that. Sorry.
We motioned and voted on that one. So we are in closed session, so we are in recess until that time. All right, we're going to take a short break. We're going to reorganize here, and we will be started shortly.